For school districts that already support early childhood, that'll free up funds to support other purposes, but particularly for many of our down and rural districts that don't have extensive early childhood offerings, we want to make that universal so they have the same opportunities that some of the kids in districts that already have that do, or that have parents who can afford full day kindergarten or quality preschool already have. So that's what we need to do to move forward. Creating an economy that works for everybody is harder. That's a harder problem, but it's a big problem because it's a real frustration. I think that's led people in many ways to reject the traditional solutions from the left and the right, to elect somebody like Donald Trump who has all the wrong answers, but to some of the right questions about why isn't this economy working for me. You tell me the stock market is setting records, you tell me unemployment rate is record low. Why am I struggling with wage stagnation, my rent going up, my mortgage going up? I don't seem to be getting ahead from where I was 10 years ago. Somehow these macro indicators aren't translating to real success for everybody. So how do we better create an economy that works for everybody? We are already transitioning to a higher minimum wage of $12 an hour. I support that. I think that's an important part of that. We can look at opportunities to further increase that. But another way that we can do it is to highlight employee ownership through co-ops, ESOPs, stock options, profit sharing, all the different mechanisms that exist to make sure that people that work in companies can succeed when their companies succeed, not just the investors and executives. Some sectors do this well. The craft brewery sector has many employee-owned craft breweries. The companies that I started, technology companies, all had universal stock options for every employee at BlueMountain.com and ProFlowers.com and American Information Systems. And that way, when a company does well, it doesn't just benefit the investors and the executives, it benefits everybody. And when you look at the great value that's being created across our economy, we need to have policies in place at the federal level where I work on this, and yes, at the state level. And I would love to see Colorado be a leader. My goal will be to be a leader nationally in meaningful employee ownership in firms over the next 4 years. So those are some of the solutions that I offer. I truly believe there's a great opportunity in our state to become a leader in renewable energy, to become a leader in education, to become a leader in an economy that works for everybody. The very types of issues that I can guarantee you are not going to be addressed by President Trump, and in fact, we will be moving backwards on nationally, which is a reason for all the more of us individually and in our communities, in our cities, in our counties, at the state, to take up that mantle of leadership and to lead the way to a future that works for everybody. So with that, I would be happy to open it up. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your suggestions on the issues I haven't raised that are on your mind. Yes?
My number one concern is we have a lot of undocumented people living in our valley, and there's a lot of jobs that frankly really don't want, and one of them that I have come across is the caregiver industry. They don't pay enough, they pay minimum wage, they don't pay enough to make it worthwhile for regular, legal citizens to do that work. But there's a lot of people who would be so good at taking care of the elderly. And if there's some way you can start some kind of program with special visas, or any way to do it.
Not really. She asked if we were together.
So I've been a very strong supporter of immigration reform nationally, and it has been a failure of our political system to solve that problem. There are Democrats and Republicans of goodwill, there are bipartisan solutions, but because of the difficulties of the political system, it has never become law. There was a bill 3 years ago, not a perfect law, but one that I was proud to be a co-sponsor of in the House, passed the Senate. 2/3 of the Senate passed immigration reform. It would have passed the House most likely had it been brought to a vote. It was never even brought to a vote. So this problem will not solve itself. And there's no wall that will solve this problem. There's no mass deportation that will solve it. It takes a comprehensive approach for people who've been here in a part of our communities. They should be able to register and get right with the law. There needs to be a future flow of immigration that is tied into the needs of our country, the needs of the economy, and yes, the needs of different sectors. And you mentioned home care as one of those sectors. Another idea in home care, Rocky Mountain Farmers Union has helped start an employee-owned home care cooperative in Denver. Another example of employee ownership where the home care workers themselves work for their own entity that provides home care. And we've seen the success of that endeavor where they now have dozens and hopefully will soon have hundreds of home care workers in employee-owned cooperative. We would love to see that kind of opportunity extended to Western Colorado. Well, right now it's only legal, of course, to hire documented employees. And part of the problem, of course, is that we need to have laws that recognize the reality of the need for workers. So I haven't seen a particular proposal for that category. We do have categories that are listed for different workers, but as part of a comprehensive approach, if you look at the demographics of our country, we will have an increased need for home care workers. There's no question that we will need that. And part of that might be solved through fixing our immigration system. Now again, that's work that needs to be done federally. At the state level, we need to make sure that even in the absence of the federal government fixing our immigration system, that we do a good job in our schools, making sure that the American citizens and immigrants get a good education, that people have all the opportunities, that we don't detract our police and sheriffs from protecting our communities to instead enforce broken immigration laws that are utterly unenforceable. So there's still a very important state nexus, even though the state alone can't solve that.
I was just going to add that Hawaii recently passed a law that family members can get paid to do home care, and there's a waivers somewhere around like $2,000 a certain amount per hour that family members are allowed to
Yeah.
if people want to look into that law in Hawaii, somehow, it's always better to look at something and redo it rather than trying to make it up themselves. So that's something to look at.
We'll make a note of that to take a look at that. Yes.
Hi, Congressman Ross Wilson, Mountain Family Health Center, we're a community health center here on the western slope. So my question is about health care. And my bias is that access to affordable health care is a human right. At the federal level, that's clearly been under attack. If you're governor, how will you invest in improving the health for all people in our state?
So that's a great question. If you look at the important things that the state does that are important to our lives, top among them, education, of course, nearly half the state budget, criminal justice, health care, and infrastructure. Those are kind of the big ones. It's not that they don't do anything else, but those each deserve kind of chapters of what we should do. Healthcare is very important. So first of all, we need to see what happens nationally. I've been strongly opposed to any efforts to repeal the Affordable Care Act without a replacement that's better. In terms of what is a replacement or improvements I would support, I would look for policies that expand coverage, that reduce rates, and maintain or improve quality. Those would be my thresholds. The current proposals fail on all three of those accounts. Coverage is lower, costs go up, and quality assurances go away. So we can do better at the state level. I've supported it, and I do support universal health care nationally. There's a bill I co-sponsored that would create a universal plan to do that. There's a way that states can move in that direction, but in Colorado that would take a vote of the people, so it's not something the governor and the state legislature can do. But there is a lot that the governor and state legislature can do. So we're actually working on, and make sure when you write down your name, write down health care, because we'll be rolling out in the next month or two our plan. But it includes some of the best practice improvements from a variety of states that we could use to actually improve the quality and access to health care here in Colorado. Because the Affordable Care Act didn't even allow states to cover everybody. We made a big dent. There's over 500,000 Coloradans that have coverage today. We also know that coverage is different than access, particularly when we're talking about our rural and mountain communities. So those are two sides of the coin. Our community health clinics are very important to low-cost providers. They're going to be part of any systemic approach to serving everybody universally. But like anything, there's not an easy answer. So I support quality improvements, pricing transparency, reference pricing for state workers through insurance programs. A lot of these types of ways that other states who have implemented one or two of these have been able to bring down costs so that they can expand coverage with the pool that we have. And obviously, if taxpayers provide more resources that can be consumed, then that would be fine. But otherwise, we need to reduce costs.